Next up, we have Nick Estes, who will be joining us to speak about Leonard Peltier.
I just want to say it's a really beautiful day to be here in Piscataway land, on indigenous land. We're here not to just beg for Leonard Peltier. They think that we come to Washington, D.C., to a place that's named after a man that Haudenosaunee people call Town Destroyer, to beg. But they have it wrong. We're here to tell you what is right. People who speak truth do not beg power. They speak truth to power. And all of you, we are power. Not these monuments to white supremacy. Not this monument to a genocider who killed Dakota people. We started this walk in Minneapolis in November of 1972. The Trail of Broken Treaties came to Washington, D.C. to meet with the president with a position paper with 22 points for treaty rights, for health care, to protect children. And they were rebuffed by the Nixon administration, who cared more about waging a war in Vietnam than he cared about the people here, the original indigenous people here in this country. And so they took over the Bureau of Indian Affairs when the president refused to meet with them. And they occupied the building for about a week. And in that building they found the evidence of the crime, of the mismanagement of millions of dollars in lease money for Indian land, for all the children that had been taken from their families, the mismanagement of the Indian health services, all these things that are protected not just by treaties, but by the Constitution, a document that was written before the treaties, that's much older than our treaties, where it says that treaties are the supreme law of the land, Article 6. And in those documents, they found the mismanagement, the centuries of mismanagement by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The Trail of Broken Treaties Manifesto also became the framework for the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. It launched the international indigenous movement at the United Nations. That began here 50 years ago today. Ask yourself why they venerate a genocider, and why they don't venerate our heroes of indigenous resistance. Leonard Peltier was part of the Trail of Broken Treaties. He was in what they called the Native American Embassy 50 years ago today. They didn't have guns. They didn't have anything. All they had was their prayer and their truth. But they were evicted, and then began the surveillance by the FBI. So when we talk about the American Indian movement, the Red Power movement, the Trail of Broken Treaties, that history is still relevant today. Leonard Peltier was taken from his family by Indian agents and put into a boarding school. The Indian Child Welfare Act, at the time it was passed in 1978, was meant to protect Native children, to reverse the process of Indian child removal. And in their findings in congressional hearings here, where we're at, they found that anywhere between 25% to 35% of Native children during that time when that bill was passed have been adopted out to white families or foster care systems. Imagine a quarter of our people have been adopted out, taken from their families. And now we have 9 unelected judges trying to adjudicate what that means, what indigenous sovereignty means. In some ways, this system is moving backwards as we, as Indigenous people, are trying to move forwards. Standing Rock was a turning point for us. We have one of our good relatives, a water protector here, who can speak to that. Even when we don't take up guns, even when we stand in prayer, we're still considered criminals. Much like our Dakota patriots who this man killed. We're still considered criminals to this day. Because a report found last year that a quarter of carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions coming from the United States and Canada were being challenged by Indigenous-led movements. We are punching way above our weight class when it comes to being good ancestors for future generations and preventing climate change. They don't care about Native children. They don't care about Indigenous rights. What they care about is their bottom line, which is money. The lawyers who are arguing that case to overturn the Indian Child Welfare Act, they're from the Gibson Dunn law firm, which represents oil companies. How many pieces of legislation have gone through state legislators to criminalize being a water protector? How many times have we sat before lawyers sitting on the other side saying, did you witness a violent act when you were at Standing Rock? Did you participate in direct action? Are you a water protector? Hell yeah, I'm a water protector. But they want us to be ashamed of that history. They want us to be ashamed of Leonard Peltier. They want Leonard Peltier, our history as Indigenous people, is locked up with him right now. Obama was a coward for not letting him out. So too was Clinton. I was here in 2016. A lot of us were here in 2016. Leonard's son died here in 2016 trying to get his dad out of prison. Anything that happens, every single day that he sits in jail, the blood and the guilt is not on our hands. It's on Biden's hands. He could change this today with a phone call. It's gross and it's disgusting that we have to come here and explain this to people. But our truth is more powerful than their vanity, than their greed, and it's more powerful than their hate for us. Because we know that each one of you is going to go back and do more than just beg on the colonizer's shoulder and cry and ask for our land back. Stop taking our children. When has that ever worked? We have to fight back. We have to organize. We have to turn to each other. We have to create a new system from the ground up. One that reflects Indigenous values. Because otherwise, we're not going to have an earth to live on. It's not a matter of becoming Indigenous. It's not a matter of whether or not you think that our truth is the truth. Because tomorrow won't come if you don't listen to us today. We won't have a planet tomorrow if we keep doing what we're doing right now. And that's what Leonard Peltier represents. That's why he's a threat to this system. It's because they know once Leonard Peltier is free, as Rachel said, we're all going to be free. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nick, for that insightful analysis and historical context, and to all the speakers who have brought in the most important message that we have today, which is justice for Leonard Peltier, clemency for Leonard Peltier. This is why we're here, why we're gathering, and all of these speakers speak so eloquently on this history, on this pain, on this suffering, and what we need to do and what we can do to actually make change. So thank you.